Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunday in the House. Today, I'm going to talk more about those four roads to renewal and recovery in the United States. We talked a little bit about it last week. Yesterday, I went to our farmers market here in Travelers Rest and interviewed 100 people. I'm going to give you the results and talk a little bit about that. And as always, we have a red letter lesson. Today, the great story of the Good Samaritan. I'm going to change the characters a little bit, but I hope all of this provides all of us with 30 minutes of sanity, of strength, of steadiness in these strange and turbulent days in which we live. I'm your host, Dr. Dwight Moody, coming to you from my studios in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, where it's a beautiful fall day. I hope it's pretty where you are. I hope you're with somebody that loves you. As always, I have something to say about politics, life, and Jesus. I'm focused on the red letter lessons, the red letter Jesus, because in these stressful times, I think patterning our speech, our actions, our attitudes, our behavior after Jesus, whom we call Savior and Lord, this is a good thing. It's a transforming thing. It's a helpful thing. It's a healing thing. It is a saving thing. It can make us strong and sane and maybe sweet at the same time. So today our lesson is from the 10th chapter of Luke's Gospel. Here is let me read it for you. Now, you remember somebody came to quiz Jesus, and actually they were trying to trap him, not really interested in conversation and learning, but trying to trick Jesus or trap him, which is very common among people. And then we pick up the text like this. Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. Now, I've talked to you many times about this. Jerusalem was in the hill country. Jericho was down in the Jordan Valley. It's downhill the whole way. I've walked it, driven it, and biked it many times. This man was attacked by bandits. You know, there's a lot of talk today about urban bandits, and it's become a real focal point of some federal activity. These bandits stripped the traveler of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. By chance, a minister came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. We could stop and think about that. A temple assistant, or what we might call an associate pastor, walked over and looked at the man lying in the ditch, but he also passed by on the other side. You know, there were guidelines in the Levitical rules for priests and associates about touching dead things. And this could have been one of the reasons why they were hesitant to touch the body or move the body or assist the body. Then a despised Samaritan came along. Can I substitute the word immigrant? Then an immigrant came along. And in some real ways, that's what a Samaritan was. You know, Samaritans lived in another part of the hill country up north, and the people in the south in Jerusalem did not go to the Samaritan area and vice versa. So there was kind of a border there. People didn't go to different places. So the immigrant came along. When he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. And he put the man in his own car, took him to the bed and breakfast where he was staying, and he took care of him. The next day, he handed the owner of the bed and breakfast $200. Take care of this man, he said. If the costs run more than this, I'll pay it when I come back the next time. Now, which of these three men, the minister, the associate minister, or the immigrant, was a neighbor to the man in the ditch? That was the question of Jesus. You know, I like asking questions in conversation, in interviews, in sermons. As a matter of fact, asking a question is one of the 9 things of a good sermon. Some others are to talk about Jesus and to tell a story and to have one main point. I've written a little book on that. That is the 9 marks of a good sermon, but questions are always in order when you're having a conversation, when you're preaching a sermon. So my questions here, like Jesus, who was a neighbor to the person? Was it the minister or was it the immigrant? I want to ask this question. Where do you find yourself in this story? Do you feel like you're a victim of something that somebody else has done to you? You feel like you've been trashed and thrown to the side by an employer, by a spouse, by a family, by a neighborhood? There are a lot of people like this. Do you think of yourself as a gatekeeper, a leader like the minister in the story, a spokesperson, somebody who sets the pattern or calls people to action? Do you think of yourself as a bandit, as a criminal, as a thug? Do you know one of the most interesting features about this story is how little attention is given to the criminals, the bandits, the thugs? Now, if this story were to be written in our day, you know, it would take center stage. There would be all this, another whole paragraph in the story about how they chased down the bandits and arrested the bandits and tried them and put them in jail, and they had to pay their price. It's very interesting that that was not on Jesus' mind. He was not concerned about catching the bad people. The story is about how to help the hurting people. I think this, in and of itself, gives us great insight into what it means to be a follower of Jesus today. Not trying to assess blame or to find somebody who's responsible for something, but to help people who have been hurt, sidelined, ditched. Do you find yourself more like the immigrant? You know, the immigrant has become the center focus of American politics and action. I myself, I'm embarrassed by the way our federal government is treating immigrants. It is ungodly, it's un-American, it's unhuman. And I will look forward to the day when all of this is over, when all of this ugliness is over. But this is a story of very similar to in our own country, how immigrants help us in surprising ways. The people least likely to get credit for things. This immigrant person, this what the Bible calls a Samaritan, what we might call a Mexican or a Venezuelan, who recognizes that somebody is in need, stops by and goes above and beyond the call of duty. This story is so relevant to us today, don't you think? How can we love our neighbors in such a divided country where there are a lot of people in the ditch, a lot of people being discarded, a lot of people being abused? And our role is not to play the victim. We're not to whine about how we've been mistreated and misunderstood and how we don't get our fair share. Our role as Jesus people is to notice the people in the ditch, the people who are the true victims, who've lost everything they had, whose life is in danger, who are discarded and ignored by the establishment, represented here by the ministers, the religious people. One of the things that we can do is by speaking kindly and truthfully. I talked about this last week. One of the four ways that we can help bring renewal and revival to our country, fresh energy and a fresh embracing of the vision of what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be an American, what it means to be a person. The things that we say are powerful. I spoke about this last week, about trying to avoid the language that separates us from them. Words can canonize. You know, the Pope Leo just canonized, I think that's the right word here, a young man long deceased as a saint. And words have the power to do this, but words can also demonize. They could stir up our emotions to love somebody or to hate somebody, to blame somebody or to join together with somebody. Words can do this. Public speakers can do this. Public singers can do this. Can call us all together or push us apart. Can find the good in each person or focus on the evil in each person. Now, we're going to see a great example of this this afternoon out in Phoenix. There's a big gathering. There is I don't know whether it's going to be a funeral proper for Charlie Kirk or whether it's a political rally. We're going to find out. It's 2:00 Eastern time, 11:00 out there at church time. I don't know what to say about the whole Charlie Kirk episode in our life. I am bewildered by the whole thing, by what happened, by what has happened since his death, by the way people have responded to it, how to understand Charlie Kirk's life, what it means for America. Is it going to change anything? Is it going to inspire people? Does it discourage people? You know, the Bible says there's a time to speak and a time to be silent. And even though I write an article every week and host this show every Sunday, I just sometimes want to be quiet and not say something. I don't know quite what to feel or say. Maybe you are feeling like this and you want to keep quiet and just wait. But I have a good friend who's a writer. He's a wonderful columnist. He writes a column more than once or twice a week, and he has written something that I want to read to you. I'm going to read it off of my phone. He wrote a column called Saint Charlie. He actually had a picture of Charlie Kirk transformed into kind of to make Charlie look like a saint. You can go to his Substack and see it. I hope you will do that. Substack, Marshall Davis 2, I think it is. I'm going to read this. This is part of the column he wrote. It's a good word. The truth is that God is in all people. To truly know God is to see God in all people. God just happens to be more visible to us in some people and at some times, but God is in all. God was in Charlie Kirk and also in Charlie Kirk's assassin. God is in the ICE agent and the immigrant, the Democrat and the Republican, the fascist and the socialist, the Israeli and the Palestinian. God is in our enemies. God is in those with whom we disagree strongly. When we see God in everyone, then we see God in ourselves. When this is seen by enough people, then it will be the end of violence in our nation. The memorial service this afternoon will be an indication of which way our country is headed. If the speakers are as Christian as they profess to be, then they will follow the example of Christ. As Christ was being executed on the cross, he prayed, quote, "Father, forgive them. They really don't know what they're doing," end quote. I'm hoping to hear a Christ-like spirit of forgiveness at the memorial service today. I'm hoping to hear a prayer for forgiveness for the assassin. I'm hoping to hear a message like Jesus spoke on the Sermon on the Mount. Quote, "You have heard that it was said to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your heavenly Father." This memorial service can be a turning point for Turning Point USA and all of its allies. It can be a call to godly forgiveness and reconciliation. It can be an example of Christian love. It could be a call to national unity in the face of violence, or it could be a call to arms, a call for revenge and retaliation. We either see God in the face of our neighbor and enemy, or we see the devil. We will know today which way the country is headed. Marshall Davis, Substack. Thank you, Marshall. It matters what we say. Last week, I called for restraint. I even confessed that I was going to change some of my rhetoric. Violent, angry rhetoric stirs people to evil things. I want to show you another video that deals with this. This is a video of my daughter, Kate. Many of you know her. She told me a story this week, reminded me of something that happened a decade ago when I was in the hospital, and introduced to her a poem. I want us to listen to her for a minute.
I woke up with the impulse to read this to you today, to all of you, to myself. On Wednesday on LinkedIn, I posted a photo of myself in a coffee shop and asked the question, how's your heart? How's your mind? How's your spirit? And it was Wednesday, and I thought, and in the post I said, what do you need to do today? Do you need to take a deep breath? Do you need to take a walk? Do you need to stretch? Do you need to pivot or change lanes? This was on Wednesday. And at the end of the post, I said, by Friday, the world can look completely different. And lo and behold, the world looks different today. It's been a tough week. Things feel inflamed. People are outraged. And for good reason, these things are happening. I mean, there's good cause, there's cause for this. It is not without cause. Poetry is something I always turn to in times of great emotion. And this is a favorite of mine that I discovered for the first time several years ago. There's a whole story there, but we're not going to go into it right now. And I just want to share it with you because I think it's beautiful. And the name of the poem is I Know Something Good About You, written by Louis C. Schumann. Wouldn't this old world be better if folks we meet would say, I know something good about you, and treat us just that way? Wouldn't it be fine and dandy if each hand clasp, fond and true, carried with it this assurance? I know something good about you. Wouldn't life be lots more happy if the good that's in us all were the only thing about us that folks bothered to recall? Wouldn't life be lots more happy if we praised the good we see? For there's such a lot of goodness in the worst of you and me. Wouldn't it be nice to practice that fine way of thinking too? You know something good about me, and I know something good about you. Wouldn't that be a lovely world to live in? to cross paths with people, the strangers in coffee shops and on sidewalks, in conference rooms and board rooms, on buses and on campuses. I know something good about you, and you know something good about me. One can dream. Thanks for indulging me.
Thank you, Kate B. Reminds me of a song we used to sing uh, when I was very little. Be careful, little tongue, what you say. We were trying to teach children, of course, to be careful what they said because people hear what we say. What we say impacts our children, our neighbors, our friends. What we say impacts our own spirit and our own soul. And being careful what we say to tap down the rhetoric is something we need in our country today. But there's three other things that I want to mention, like I did last week. I'll talk more about these in the future. One is to escape the gerrymandering trap. You know, gerrymandering isolates people and pushes us into corners rather than bringing us together. Another thing, well, instead of gerrymandering, we need to establish commissions, independent commissions all over the country. I don't know why AI cannot be employed to establish the legislative districts all over the country that strips uh, the struggle for political power out of the process. Something else we need to do is surrender our guns. No, we don't need a constitutional amendment. We don't need a presidential proclamation. We don't need a new law. We need people, neighbors, friends, parents, children to hear the voice of God, the call of the Holy Spirit to lay your guns on the altar as an act of Christian discipleship. There are too many guns in our country, and we could start a great movement. You never know what one little episode will do to trigger a nationwide movement of putting down. I ain't going to study war no more. Going to lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. I ain't going to study war no more. And then, of course, I talked last week about singing together. I think this is very important. I introduced some of you, to the song about from Billy Strings. One of these days, I'm going to change my ways, he sang. I hear it and sing it and promote it as a call to the whole nation. But I look forward to the day when we can sing together more than we are. We've become very accustomed to going to places to hear other people sing, where performers perform for all of us. But what we really need is for all of us to sing together in choirs, in communities, and in concerts, to sing with the leaders, to sing together America the Beautiful, to sing the ballad, This Land is Your Land, This Land is My Land, to sing that great Black spiritual, Walk Together, Children, Don't You Get Weary, There's a Great Camp Meeting in the Promised Land. Maybe we all need to sing together, God Bless America, or Amazing Grace. You know, it does us good to sing these things together. It tears down barriers, it blends voices, it unites our spirits together as human beings, as Americans, as believers, as neighbors. We need to be singing together in churches and concerts and clubs and coffee houses. Finally, today, I'm going to tell you about what I did yesterday. Every Saturday here in Travelers Rest, we have a wonderful farmers market, and most of weeks I go over there, buy a few things. I did that yesterday. It was the last one of the season. There were, it was mobbed with people. I So I wanted to take a video of all this, and I stood up and I saw a man standing near a truck, and I said, "Can I stand on the bumper of your truck to take a picture?" He said, "No, I'll help you. I'll do one better." He lowered the gate. I leaped up in it, stood up, and took a video. I got back down and thanked him, shook his hand. I said, I could tell he was an officer of some sort. And I said, are you a police officer? He said, "Yes, I'm the chief of police." Handed me his card. I gave him my card. And he became the first person that I interviewed. I interviewed 100 people. First, I went over and bought apples, 2 bags of apples, a pint of blackberries, and one sweet roll. I ate the sweet roll for lunch later, and the blackberries this morning for breakfast. And then I started talking to people. For the next almost 3 hours, I walked around the farmer's market and interviewed 100 people. I identified myself as a scholar of religion, doing research, collecting data for a column. I had 14 people turn me down. "No, I don't want to talk." Wasn't because they were in a hurry, and I understand they didn't want to get pulled into a conversation of any kind. I asked these 100 people 5 questions, and I want to report on it. I had wonderful conversations with so many of these people. Okay, here are the 5 questions. Here's my notebook with all of my notes on it. Can you see it? 100 people. Number one, there were 14 people who turned me down, but I talked to 100. There were 97. The first question was, "Do you recognize the name Charlie Kirk?" 97 people said yes. The 3 who didn't, one was from Italy, one was from Brazil, and one was from the hills. He told me that he had gotten disgusted with life and moved off grid. He was not aware of any news, never read the paper, doesn't watch any television, is on no social media. He did not know who Charlie Kirk was. What he does is grow mushrooms, and that's why he was there selling mushrooms. I know somebody who'd be interested in that. Number 2, I asked him, "Do you know what happened to Charlie Kirk last week?" 97 said yes, 3 said no. And then I asked, "Were you aware of Charlie Kirk before his murder?" 67 said yes. 33 said no. And then I asked, "Is your impression of Charlie Kirk today, does it tend to be favorable? Does it tend to be unfavorable?" And my answers were 59 said yes, favorable. 36 said unfavorable. Now, I was surprised at this right here in Ruby Red, South Carolina. Now, it was a pretty mixed audience, age-wise, gender, race. And then I asked this question: do you think of Charlie Kirk more as a Christian witness, a campus free speecher, or a political activist? People found this a very difficult question. What do you think when you think of Charlie Kirk? Everybody's talking about Charlie Kirk. What do you think? Do you think of him as a Christian witness, as a campus free speecher, as a political activist? Well, here's the results I got yesterday. Travelers Rest, South Carolina. 32 people said as a Christian witness. So that's about a third of the people who responded. A political activist, 30. Now, it was very interesting that there was a strong correlation in this survey between people who had a negative view of him and people who thought that he was a political activist. Most of the people who had a negative view of him considered him a political activist. That was 30 people. And then 22 people considered him a campus free speecher. That's gotten a lot of attention, especially since a lot of people around the country have lost jobs by exercising their free speech about Charlie Kirk. It's a strange anomaly, don't you think? There were some other people who had some kind of combination of all three, and 7 people gave no response, I think. That was my survey. I was interested in attitudes and awareness and what people thought. What do you think? I want to conclude by telling you that this survey is brought to you by Stephen Reed. He was one of the last people that I interviewed, and was a wonderful guy. Of course, don't remember who said what in the survey, but he said, "You want a sponsor for your program tomorrow?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Why don't you let my business, Humble Roots?" He makes edible spreadables, pimento cheese. So do I. I told him that. As a matter of fact, yesterday I had out on my counter at home all the stuff I need uh, to whip up a batch of pimento cheese. I do it all the time. I I took it home. I took it over to some friend's house where we were last night. We all had a little pimento cheese. It's really good. The name of the company, Humble Roots. It's a catering service. Stephen Reed. Thank you, Stephen. Your stuff is really good. I hope people buy it. God bless you all. God bless you, Stephen. God bless everybody who helped in the survey yesterday. I encourage you to be strong, be steady, be hopeful, be a light in somebody's darkness. Don't kick somebody or curse somebody. Shine a light. And I want to remind you of the song, Billy String's song called Richard Petty. With this, I'm going to close the show. One of these days, I'm going to find me a better way to live my life and carry on without the strife. That's a song that our nation needs to sing. Thank you for tuning in today. Share this with somebody that you think needs to join us. Tag them on Facebook or YouTube. Let me hear from you. Tell me what you think. God bless you all. I'm Dwight Moody in the Meeting House, and this has been Sunday in the House.